Reese here, wedding photographer and blogger from New Jersey, still participating in Tim King's 30-day vlog challenge, day 28. Then only 2 more videos to go for the vlog challenge. And today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about when you go from being a second shooter to a first shooter, the things you need to know and how to guide your now second shooters, and also becoming a a second shooter and getting jobs. So when you start out, if you want to switch from portraits to weddings, ideally would be definitely to work with someone as third shooting first or assisting, or second shooting. Now, some folks think that if they've been doing photography, they're going to jump right into weddings and it's just going to flow, and they really, know how to shoot in RAW, or they know their camera, shoot manually, and they know their camera really well. The thing that people don't tell you is that being a wedding photographer, you not only have to learn your camera composition, posing, you have to really understand what the wedding date timeline consists of, because now people are going to look to you as experts. The bride's going to ask you what time her hair appointment should be, what time the photos are going to be, how long do the family photos take, how long do the bridal party photos take, if they're doing a first look, and all the stuff that is associated. So not only when you start second shooting and third shooting assisting, you're learning about wedding day photography, you're going to also be learning about wedding day timeline. So the best way is definitely to third shoot and then later second shoot. And when you work with a few photographers regularly, you're going to know exactly what they expect, and every second shooter is different. Every main shooter, how they deal with their second shooter is different. But here are some tips that, or I would say don'ts, if you're just starting second shooting. And also when you go from becoming a second shooter to a main shooter, these are the kind of things you want to be talking with your second shooter, if that makes any sense. So on both sides, right? So if you're a second shooter, you have to have clear communication as far as expectations. You need to know if they want, if the main shooter wants you to use their cards or your cards. You need to really talk out before, or put it in writing, the expectations as far as if you're allowed to show it in your portfolio. How are you allowed to blog it? When? For example, for me, I allow my second shooters to blog after I have blogged, but they have to give credit back to me, saying they photographed for me that day and they link back to me, which linking is great for SEO. And then also, I don't allow them to add my clients on Facebook, because if they pick an image that I didn't pick out of my batch, I don't want to create that mess right there. But every main shooter is different. There are main shooters that won't let you do anything and will only let you use their cards. But if you're looking for experience, why not? Okay? So when you're starting out, really be humble and just go work. If you have to work for free at first and then to gain more experience, I say do it, because it is worth it. Some people have had really great luck just jumping right in. But I think let's get more organized, let's plan it accordingly, and let's build rapport with one another. So first you have to find out all those things. You also have to be really, really honest with the gear you have and the gear that you're going to run for the day. Because your main shooter may have certain expectations, or may want you to have a certain lens, or may have extra lenses for you to use. So be clear on that. Usually it's expected that you drive on your own. So then, print out all your maps and directions and things like that. And then, just your time that you're going to be there, coverage, payment. How is that going to be made? After, before. Usually around here, it's $35 to $50 an hour for a second shooter rate. And that's just for RAWs. It's usually not for edited image unless you're paying on the higher end. And maybe some people will ask you for 200 of your best JPEGs. That's at least been my experience. A don't give out your business card. And believe me, I've done all these mistakes as a second shooter out of pure ignorance. So I'm sharing with you what not to do. Don't arrive late. Try not to bother the photographer with and try to resolve things on your own, or just, if there are issues, really calm the main shooter and be there, be supportive. Say everything went well. Not lie, but also not freak out at any little thing. Have your own car, have contact numbers if needed, make sure you know where you're going, make sure you have a copy of the timeline of the day. Another really, really important thing, and I see this, and also when you start, when you become a main shooter and then you have to hire a second shooter, never, never, ever, if you're a second shooter, stand behind the main photographer. Why would I hire someone to get the exact same shots as I have? Now, this is, of course, all the rules are exceptions. For example, sometimes when I'm doing families, I'll ask my second shooter to do duplicates or get like side angle, like more candids, you know, and I call them safe shots, things like that. But usually when I'm doing family, the second shooter has gone to the reception and is doing details. So if you're starting out shooting, photographing weddings, and you're hiring a second shooter for the first time, remember, it's important for somebody to be photographing the details, you know, and the cocktail hour, right? People like those shots, those pose shots of their friends at the cocktail hour. Lots of bride and grooms don't participate in their cocktail hour, so they like getting pictures of that. So not standing behind the photographer, because that's kind of like ambiguous right there. I would say don't be too much of a chatter, which sometimes I can be when I'm a second shooter, so I have to control myself and understand that it's not my client. It's, you know, be nice, be social, but just be really respectful. Once you start working with someone, you kind of get their feel. Sometimes I'll ask the second shooter to step in. I'll ask the second shooter for ideas, and I'm totally open-minded about that. But, you know, don't volunteer information right away. If it's your first time second shooting for someone and you're like, hey, do this. Hey, I saw that. Because remember, when you're second shooting, you could really do a lot of creative things because you're outside of that pressure zone and the main shooter's inside the pressure zone. And although you might think an idea is great, you really have to respect the main shooter style, respect how they work, and build that relationship up. Once you get to that point where, you know, if they have an idea, they could come and whisper to you and say something, or they saw something, they heard something, etc. Also, it's great to be helping sometimes with family photos, organizing people or just keeping them, you know, moving along. What else not to do if you're a second shooter? Don't Facebook the images and tag the client. That is just tacky. That's a no. Don't do that. I've done this before in pure ignorance. Two, don't use, I suggest not to use images from a wedding you're second shooting for like promo, like flyers, or like definitely you can't submit to a wedding blog. That's a no-no. That's not your client. Or, you know, taking that image and maybe doing an advertisement, which can be viewed in many places. What if that client sees it later and sees a different name on there? So I would talk to your main shooter about that. Some main shooters are really open and don't even care, but that is something, that's what I require my second shooters not to do. Also, have a worksheet. Say all these things, like give them tips. If you're a main shooter, have like, you know, your top 10 commandments, or like, don't give out your business card, ask me for some. This is what you should wear. This is how I work. This is what I expect. Clear communication is key. So again, if you want to get into weddings, I recommend third shooting, second shooting, contact a few photographers this week, today. I challenge you. If you've been second shooting for a while and you want to start first shooting, that's another post that we could talk about. But once you've become a first shooter, remember, now you have the responsibility to educate your second shooter as far as your expectations and what they should really be doing. And if they step out of line, how to, you know, address those things. So that is my tip for our second shooting on both sides, first shooter and second shooter roles. I hope this has been helpful. And if I forgot something, please chime in and make a comment. Or if you have a question, just let me know. Thanks so much. Bye.